If you've been in the app development space, you know that in the past handful of years, there's been a no-code revolution happening. No-code tools are removing the need for those really long development timeframes for building an app. They are slashing the prices on costly developers. And because of those things, they are really lowering the barrier to entry into launching an app or building your own startup. Now, to give you some perspective from our side, we help people build and launch their apps without having to code, without having to outsource. And we've been in this space for nearly a decade now. Now, we really saw the explosion and the buzz around no code happening around the pandemic, which makes a lot of sense because that's when so many things were going online. Now, we of course had plenty of clients and students who were looking to launch their apps before that, but it was during that time where we experienced kind of a shift in the atmosphere. People were starting to think a lot bigger. No longer was no code just for building MVPs. At that time, people started thinking, I want to build the next Airbnb, the next Uber, the next Facebook, or whatever it might be. That's when we started having investors, companies looking to acquire, knocking on our own door. People wanted to get their hands on that next unicorn startup and just get filthy rich. But there's a new no-code revolution that's been happening over the past year or so, and we could not be more excited for it. The entrepreneurial dream as it relates to launching an app has been changing. Instead of chasing down that multi-million-dollar valuation with an app, people are now looking to build wealth in terms of both time and money. So that means instead of all these founders dreaming about running multi-million-dollar companies that take 80 hours per week of their time, people are now dreaming more about running maybe a mid-six-figure company that takes 20 to 30 hours per week of their time. We've seen this shift happening with a lot of our own clients, and I gotta be honest, we made this shift too after growing our own company to 7 figures, and I'll talk about that more later on in the video. So let's talk about the old dream a little bit. You've probably seen dozens and dozens of ads that kind of resonate with what I'm about to say, but the old dream was to own the Ferrari, own the Lamborghini, fly the private jets, have the unicorn startup. But I've noticed that a lot of people have gotten desensitized to that dream because for the everyday person, it's just not realistic. Looking past the incredible amounts of time and money, not to mention skill level and opportunity that's required to even start something like that, for the people who do start to scale toward those type of dreams, oftentimes they realize they end up hating it because they didn't know what was going to be required of them to get there. And there are just extreme levels of burnout. And I think because of this huge buzz happening with no code in the app space, a lot of people were going after that. And so over time, they started realizing, hey, maybe this new dream is actually better. Now, the new dream is all about building scalable businesses without the traditional barriers or inputs required to grow and run them. And because so many of those barriers are being removed, the incredible amounts of time, money, and skill set required, more and more everyday people are now launching their own businesses. And because of this democratization, the focus isn't on building that next big Facebook, the next big Airbnb so much anymore. Now it's on building the niche tool that someone in another industry may literally never even hear about, but for the right person, it can be life-changing. And this is the new no-code revolution. It's the power of no-code that is enabling this shift. So let's dig into that further. What can you actually build with no-code? Because this has changed a lot over the years. So first off, I'm on an article over on our website, and I'm going to go through some of it from a very high level, but I will drop a link to this in the description below so that you can check it out further if you want. And in a second, I'm going to switch over and actually show you some different app examples that our own clients have built. So first off, what can you build with no code? So again, from a high level, We have e-commerce sites, right? Think about sites like Etsy, very doable with no code. Appointment scheduling. This is a really big one. So a lot of apps are going to need custom booking functionality, even if they're not actually solely focused on appointment scheduling, right? So this is another thing that we see really, really commonly with no code. Marketplaces, another huge one. I mean, marketplaces for every single niche you could possibly imagine, which goes kind of back to that democratization that we were talking about. We see a lot of these. We also have listings directories. I mean, think about job board apps, which is also a type of marketplace with listings and directories, but real estate listing apps, those are really big as well. We also have CRMs and lots of different niches, different industries. They need custom CRMs for them because you can find a lot of these things out of the box, but usually for those niche industries, they require a lot of compromises because it's not specifically built for them. And if they don't have the compromises, then they have a much higher cost, of course. We also have dashboards. And again, whether the app is specifically focused on a dashboard or whether that's just a component of an app, this is a really big one because think of all the different types of analytics and tracking that can go into various dashboards and be hyper focused on one type of industry. This is huge. Messaging, again, another really big one. Social components, again, whether it's for an app in and of itself or just a component of an app, forums, groups, communities within other apps. This is also really common. Project management is another huge one. And a lot of times this is company specific because a lot of companies, they are used to using those out of the box tools that don't really work for them. And because of that, they lose just a ton of money due to inefficiencies for their own businesses. We have file management, document management, kind of like Dropbox, for example. This is a really common component of an app or an app in and of itself. Shopping carts, custom payment flows. This is a norm in every app because every app wants to be able to charge exactly in the customized way that's suited for them. So that's another big one. And then another thing to understand, and I'll kind of end here with this, is that you can integrate using APIs. So you can build most of what you can imagine using no code, but you can also integrate with existing outside services, which just expands the capabilities exponentially. Hey, real quick, if you're finding this useful so far, then I have a free extended training that I want you to bookmark and head to next. It's over at coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop. And in this free extended training, you're actually going to start taking the individual steps necessary to go from idea to app. This is including things like scoping your app, learning correct development methodology, actually starting to use no-code tools like the Bubble platform. You're going to see what other non-tech founders are building as their first apps. So head to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop and head there after this video. Like I said, though, I also want to show you some examples of actual apps that our own clients have built, keeping in mind that they did not come into this with expertise around app development. They came into this with expertise within their industries. That means they started out very likely where you are right now. You probably are not coming into this with programming skills. You probably have not launched an app before. So this is a glimpse at what's realistically possible using no code. So here we have Zoidy built by our client Jeff. And this is for manufacturing organizations that currently operate using pen and paper or spreadsheets. And it brings them away from those very inefficient processes and onto an app that's actually designed for them. So this helps them track work orders, work requests, even inventory, helps them manage maintenance, even out in the field, which is a fairly common thing needed by apps that are designed for service-based businesses that have agents who go out in the field, for example. So really valuable app packaged up here and really great delivery by this founder. Here we have an app called Good IAT. Now, Zoety was past its MVP stage, and this app here was recently launched and is in that pilot stage by one of our clients, Clint. Now, Clint is an expert in the athletic training industry, and this is an app that helps athletic trainers manage their day-to-day work and provide value to the athletes and the teams and organizations that we work for. So again, a really good example of someone coming in with expertise, a deep level of expertise within their industry, and packaging up their idea into an app that lets them completely change their own work, career, and life trajectory. Here we have Galen X built by our client, Dario, and this is also past its MVP stage. Now let me switch to the English translation. Obviously, it's in Spanish, but this is an app that helps medical practices that are scaling up run their operations more efficiently and effectively. So essentially, this helps kind of those budding medical practices actually become established and scale up into larger practices. So Dario came into this with a ton of expertise in his own industry, and again, just packaged this up into a really valuable solution for his particular target market. This is Archive, built by our client Hassan, and Hassan has a background in architecture, and so he built an app that helps architects and designers manage their projects while also building portfolios for themselves around those projects. So deep expertise in his own industry, jumping over into app development to attempt to enter the market from the tech side as well. We have Reps Tracker, built by our client Kirsten, and this helps real estate investors, people who operate short-term rentals, for example, keep track of their operations so that they can take advantage of the different tax incentives that are available to them. So it involves a lot of tracking, a lot of documenting. And so this app really streamlines the process for them and makes sure that they can get back the money that should be going back into their pockets. A lot of our clients tell us they are not looking to launch the next unicorn. They're looking to build a business that supports the type of lifestyle that they want. And that lifestyle might not seem flashy to some other people, but for them, it's their dream lifestyle. Now, if you're still watching the video at this point, then this idea or this shift toward this new no-code revolution, it probably resonates with you. And I can speak from personal experience to the fact that it resonates with me too. You know, I alluded earlier in the video to how we personally made this shift as well. You know, Gabby and I were previously running our business in a way to where we were growing just for the sake of growth, just to scale as much as we possibly could. Because if you spend more than 10 seconds on social media, that just seems like what you're supposed to do. So we were working really, really heavy weeks. We were building our team. We were continuing to expand. But at the end of the day, we really just wanted flexibility and options. So we evolved the structure of our business and stopped scaling just for the sake of scale. Instead, we prioritized making a deeper impact with each individual client that we worked with, while also making sure we were able to enjoy the type of lifestyles that we wanted. For me personally, that means being able to split my time living near the mountains and also living near the beach. It means being able to spend time each and every day focusing on my health and fitness, spending time building the biggest backyard garden that I can, and being out in nature, because that's just what I enjoy doing. Now, the way you spend your time is obviously up to you to decide, but we've seen so many entrepreneurs finding it more desirable to aim for the mid-six-figure business that takes up 20 or 30 hours per week of their time versus that multi-million-dollar company that takes away every single second of their lives. So we've talked about what you can build with no code. We've gone through actual app examples, discussed this shift that's happening, but what do you actually do from here? Well, let's go through this high-level roadmap of the next steps you can take to build and launch your app. So it starts with idea validation. So making sure there's actually a need within your market for this app idea. Now, we won't go through the whole idea validation process in this video, but I do have another video that walks through an idea validation blueprint that I want you to use. Again, I'll drop a link in the description below so that you can check that out. But once you do feel confident there is a need and it's worthwhile to create a minimum viable product or a pilot app in order to validate the product itself, then you need to move into a scoping process. Now, for an easy way to start pulling your app idea out of your head in a strategic and logical way, you can use something called the Moscow Matrix, which essentially helps you break up your app's entire feature set into 4 different buckets. So we have must-have features, should have features, could have features, and won't have features. Your must-have features are the ones that must be in place for a user to use the core product to solve an initial very core problem. It essentially validates that the product serves a need and provides a use. Now, the should have features should be in place for a user to take that product and use it in real life situations on a day-to-day basis to consistently solve that core problem. The could have features are features that could be in place in order to solve the problem better, in more convenient ways, even in more enjoyable ways. And then the won't have features for now are ones that won't be useful until the app is under a certain load. So maybe until the app has a certain volume of users on board. For example, community type features. This is a really easy one to understand the won't have feature set, but community features aren't going to be useful until there's a big enough volume of users on board. So when you go through that scoping process, you can start to map out the different phases of your development. Now, in the workshop that I mentioned earlier in the video, we'll actually take you by the hand and help you scope out your app through each of those steps. So definitely head there as well. And that's going to lead you into your actual pilot development here. And this has its own set of steps. Now, we have a very structured process that we take our own clients through, where we start with their database structure, which is the key foundation to building a scalable and well-performing app. We move on to the page structure, the navigation, the flows, the different screens, the user creation to make sure that users can be created so that we can move into the custom feature development. Now, the user creation prior to custom feature development is very important because it allows you to correctly test your app as you then build those custom features. And then we move into a testing and alpha testing process, which is focusing on the functionality of the app and making sure that a user can go from start to finish without running into hiccups along the way. And this is in preparation to bringing actual test users on board. It's important that you test very exhaustively for the functionality, because when you start getting feedback from those first users, you want their feedback to be focused on the value that the app provides rather than the feedback focusing on different bugs and issues that realistically you should be able to find beforehand. From there, you'll move into your beta testing period. And this is really when you start testing out the app with those should have features already in place, because this is when users are going to be taking it and using it in real life situations on a consistent basis. So what you're testing for here is adoption of the app. And once you have gone through an iterative process to make sure that the app is in fact adoptable and serving the needs on a consistent basis, you kind of naturally move into this rollout phase. The rollout phase is when you start making the app available to your wider market. It's already been tested for function, it's been tested for usefulness, it's been tested for adoption, and now you're starting to scale your efforts as it relates to user outreach, as it relates to sales, even internal business operations, and you really should focus to growing. So look, if the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, that flashy lifestyle that you so often see online, if that doesn't resonate with you, then create your own dreams. Take advantage of this new no-code revolution. Use no-code tools to create the thing that you actually want. And hey, if you've found this video helpful, then subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and head into your next steps right now. Start building that dream lifestyle today, not next week, not next month, not next year. Start doing it right now.